Before we start, we want to note that today's episode touches on heavier topics like racism, cultural stress, and the current global climate.
Some of these conversations may feel difficult or personal. If anything discussed brings up strong emotions for you, please consider reaching out to your campus counseling services or another trusted support resource.
And as you listen and engage with this conversation, we encourage everyone to approach it with empathy and kindness toward one another.
And a special thank you to Deanna for being vulnerable and sharing her experience with us today. Welcome back to Hot Mess Help Desk, the podcast where we talk honestly about college, including the moments when you're thinking, is this just me, or is this actually a lot?
I'm Lainey Kay.
And I'm Maya Ice. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever thought, why does everything feel harder than I expected?
Especially if you're navigating a new country, a new culture, new systems, and trying to succeed academically at the same time.
We're really excited to be joined today by Dr. Deanna Rodriguez Quevedo, who brings deep expertise in language, culture, and the experiences of students navigating cultural transitions.
Dr. Rodriguez Quevedo, we'd love for you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your role, the work you do here at the University of Evansville.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to be here with you.
We're so thrilled to have you. Seriously, I've been looking forward to it. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. I'm very excited.
Yes.
So I've been here at UE for 14 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Virginia Tech before I came here.
Mhm.
I did my studies at the University of Toronto,
Mhm.
but I was born in Colombia,
Mhm.
South America. And so here I've played different roles, mainly and my favorite one is being a faculty member and being an instructor. I've had the opportunity to teach many different courses and grow by being in a liberal arts institution. I've been able to develop different courses, and that's helped me grow, learn a lot, and interact with different students. So it's really quite a privilege.
We're absolutely honored to have you here today. Let's start with the little check-in corner. So if you aren't an Indiana native, and I am not, when you first arrived here or when you first started college, what was something that surprised you more than you expected? And Maya and I kind of talked about this briefly because I had some pretty startling experiences when I first got here because I'm from New York, right? And so it's a lot different. All right. I was going to say a little, and then I was like, no, it's a lot different. Right. And so something I was telling Maya was like, I experienced very overt racism when I was first got here, in front of me, it happened. And I was so shocked by it. Right. I don't know. It was just so surprising to me and really caught me off guard. And so that is something that I experienced that really shocked me because ignorantly in New York, I was like, that doesn't really happen anymore. Right. And of course it does. And so that is an experience that I had. Something else that I had that's a little bit lighter is I was like, where are all the 7-Elevens? I was like, I Googled where the closest 7-Eleven was. And I'm like, oh, there are none.
I don't think I've seen any, no.
No, there are there's no 7-Elevens here. No, unfortunately. So whoever would like to talk on their experience here in Indiana, Maya, maybe.
Yes, so I'm from here, born and raised in Evansville. Went to Ball State in Muncie. So I guess the shock there when I went to Muncie was I thought Evansville was a small town, and it is absolutely not. It's growing up, in high school and stuff, we'd be like, oh, we got to get out of this small town. Girl, no, there's nothing. There's 2 main roads in Muncie, be for real. And then just talking to people that were different from me, acknowledging that and learning from other people's experiences and perspectives.
Yeah.
Well, I've lived in many places. I've moved over 20 times in my life, and going from urban Colombia to Montreal to Toronto, back to Colombia to Bogota in the city, and then living in rural Colombia, then moving back to Canada, And I attended university in Bogota, Colombia, in Toronto, Ontario, and then I was a faculty member, uh, as a TA in the University of Toronto, and then in Virginia Tech and here. So I've experienced university and higher ed in different places. Huge, huge, huge. 3 campuses at the University of Toronto. Virginia Tech, again, 30 or more thousand students, and then coming to UE. So I have come to really love and appreciate a small campus. But coming to Evansville, again, when I was little and my family relocated, moved from, Colombia to Canada and then back to Colombia, I was not as conscientious of my assimilation. Like I didn't make choices. I just kind of assimilated or acculturated with certain things, and some things felt really awkward and strange. And there was definitely discrimination and racism. Like physically, we lived it as young children in the 1960s in Montreal, and then even moving back to Colombia, to rural Colombia, where then we were the foreigners. We were the ones who didn't belong there, and usually in small towns, either your family has a heritage or not, and so we were the ones who just kind of showed up, the newbies, and so that we experienced, my family experienced discrimination there too. But when moving to the US, I was very aware because I had gone through that as a child, as a teenager, and then in my early 20s, moving back to Canada was a different experience. So I was very aware, and I was making decisions of how I would assimilate, how I would acculturate the things I was willing to change to fit in. And I want to clarify that fitting in is very different than belonging. Fitting in, you're aware of the things that you're kind of not bargaining, but accommodating to feel that to make yourself comfortable. Belonging really is when it's all the circumstances around you and you feel that you can be yourself, and you're welcome, you're accepted, and you're either loved or you're included being yourself. And so that's very different. So I arrived in August, and by the time November rolled around, it was Thanksgiving, and I was invited to somebody's home for Thanksgiving. I had been a vegetarian for 17 years, and I thought, that is something I'm willing to just not make a big deal about. I felt so weird. I felt like a very strange person here. And so I didn't tell the people. And I just went and had turkey, and I had a beautiful time. And then I just stopped being vegetarian. And it was, when I came in 2011, it was hard to be vegetarian here. And so that was just one of the things. Um, Discrimination, yes, even to this day on campus from different people, microaggression, it's a constant. It is, and just having to navigate that. And I truly vouch for psychotherapy. I really think it has really helped me at different times of my life, not just while I've been here, but different times in my life. Psychotherapy is a wonderful tool and resource, and that has really helped me. I am grateful to be here. I get to do what I truly love, which is being in the classroom, sharing, being with colleagues, going to conferences, researching. I get to do what I love. But there have been some trade-offs. I don't have any. I have my spouse now. I got married a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. But I don't have any of my birth family at all. In the US, I don't have any family whatsoever. And that for a Latino is really, really a challenge, or for a human being, for a female. The other aspect also is homophobia. Really, I've experienced a lot of that. I've witnessed a lot of that. That has been really harsh. And it's something that touches me deeply. And so not just race or ethnicity type of discrimination, but homophobia. And then a lot of that comes from like the population that I belong to, which is the Latinx population. And it's a topic that rarely is spoken in many contexts, even in higher education, in health. It's just something that is often not mentioned, and that that is so important. So it's either feeling, that you are included, that you feel that you're part of a group, or that you just, because the silence itself, the not mentioning, the not speaking, that is it's as if,
You can't
you
talk
don't,
about it.
yeah, exactly.
Like you can't talk about it.
Exactly.
And so all of your experiences are probably so valuable for for students to hear that are like going through similar experiences during their formative time. I imagine that you are a very good role model and resource for them, right? And that's probably why students speak so highly of you. Truly, right? Do you feel like students come to you and are able to really open up to you? She's smiling.
A lot,
Yeah.
a lot.
It's
And I think it's because I have lived a lot. I have
Mhm.
experience, and I genuinely can relate to so many things.
Yeah.
With student athletes, I cannot relate. That's the one thing, but I am a witness, and some semesters more than others, I make an effort to go and watch them,
Mhm.
watch the students in
Yes.
action.
Yeah.
I really value how dedicated they are, how good student athletes are at time management.
Yeah.
I admire that. How
Literally. Yeah.
dedicated, how strong they are in their minds, in their bodies.
Mhm.
How it's just
Incredible.
it is.
It
So
really is. Yeah.
I can't identify with their lives as student athletes, but I really value
Yeah.
everything they do.
Yeah.
Students in theater too. My goodness, we often don't
That's true.
mention them,
Yeah.
but students in theater who it's just memorizing all those lines and putting, creating and developing characters and staying on top of your studies and then trying to have a social life and staying healthy. And we also have many students who are in theater who are international students or are second generation
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
from the United States. And I avoid saying Americans because I truly believe that anywhere further, as far north and as far south to Chile and Argentina and North Canada, we're all Americans. And so that term doesn't sit so well with me.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I like that you brought up both athletes and music, theater performance, or even education. Like I just actually had a conversation with somebody recently about how intense the music programs are and the expectations of, after classes are done, you have this ensemble you need to do or rehearsal. And so they spend so much time dedicating to their major, which is important, of course, but to be able to juggle all of that in the social life and stay healthy. Right.
Yeah.
My dad was
Stay
a
healthy.
professional musician. There was not a day, even if he was sick, that he did not practice his instrument or a part of. He was a trumpet player. So if he couldn't play the full blown trumpet
Mhm.
because he had a bad cold or something, he would just use the mouthpiece. And it was not a day. He was the most disciplined person I know. And so I know that. And then the whole issue of performing. So students who are vocal performance
Mm.
or instrument, uh, it's a lot the show must go on and you need to perform. And
Literally.
they need to travel as well.
Yep.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Our students deal with a lot.
I know. We know.
And we expect a lot out of them because we need to do right by them as faculty. We need to be rigorous and expect them to do.
Yeah.
Because we want them to graduate and
Be successful.
Exactly, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So by cutting them short, we're not really doing them favors. So it's hard. It's hard to navigate being that empathetic understanding. But it's also part of that is also showing them where they can find resources. So I don't have all the answers. I'm not the expert at everything. Definitely student counseling, student services, registrar's office, financial student financial office. Like there's so many wonderful resources on campus. And
we always come back to resources. Like every episode, it's always like the takeaway is you have resources, please use them, right?
But if you're a first generation college student and then you're an international student or second generation, in the United States, then those resources, I know for me, I'm a first generation college student.
Mhm.
Even coming to the US, going back to when I first arrived here, the credit system is so different in Canada and in Colombia. It's you earn 1 credit per course. That's it. And the course lasts a whole year, 2 semesters, most of the courses. And it's you earn 1 credit. So I had to really learn the whole way credits. Well, how many credits? I'm like, it's 1 course, 1 credit. I had to learn.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So just learning how credits work.
Yeah.
And grades work. And I had to learn a lot just coming to be a faculty member. So to advise students. Yeah. And I still ask colleagues and I still go to a registrar's office for,
Yeah,
it's a very different system.
absolutely. Yeah.
So for a first generation college student, international student has navigated other systems, coming here and just knowing where to go and how things work.
Mhm.
And then, we're in the 21st century. Being a student is very different than it was 20, 30 years ago. Students are, really encouraged to do internships and study abroad. And we are that campus, we are that University of Evansville with Harlexton. And we really encourage students to have those experiences abroad. And so students have a lot to navigate.
They do. And that's why it's probably so important for you to be a resource for
Yes.
that, truly, right? Because you have similar experiences as them. So you can relate and help navigate with them and encourage them to do XYZ because you've had that experience.
Then the mistakes I made, it's just don't do
Right.
them, and really don't be afraid to ask and don't be afraid to try. And we're works in progress. It's really important that when being a teenager or a young adult, that your identity is not fully defined. And so it's okay to try different things. It's okay to have friends who are from different walks of life. It's okay. That is actually wonderful. It helps you try to figure out. And I'm a work in progress. I'm like it.
I'll be a work in progress until the day that I leave this earth.
Literally, yes.
I don't want to be somebody who is stagnant and not changing and growing and pushing themselves. I'm very similar to you in that intellectual stimulation is really important for me, and like curiosity, and throw me out of a plane. Let me try that out,
And emotional too, putting ourselves in situations that that make us vulnerable emotionally too, that we haven't figured it all out. I haven't, you know, been in that kind of situation before. And yeah, there's
You're
just so
exactly
many
right.
things. Yeah.
There are so many things, and so many things that you touched on is like so important. And I'm sure we could talk about it
Yes.
at
Yeah.
length.
And making mistakes is just part of it. We have a saying in Spanish, el que no hace errores es porque no hace nada. He who doesn't make mistakes is because he doesn't make or do anything. Like, so you got to try. You got to put yourself out there.
That was great.
That was a good one.
It is. It is. That's a really good one.
And when you're in college, a lot of mistakes you can overcome later in life. They're just, well, there's some mistakes. Yeah. There's some things that you can do that will stick with your, might end
A little
up
bit
with
more
a record.
severe. Yeah.
And it's plagiarism. So I highly, as the chair of the honor council,
That one might follow you for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to make that mistake, maybe. That one.
Anyway.
So let's get into it, folks. So people often use the term culture shock, but we also hear things like cultural adjustment or cultural transition in everyday language. How would you describe what students go through when they're adapting to a new country or campus culture?
I think that it's having to live different versions of yourself, because in a different language, in a different space, geographic space, and then you're talking about not just in southern Indiana, Evansville, but a small campus, and speaking a different language, humor is different. So it's like different versions of yourself. I do not have the same relationships in English and Spanish or French. My humor is different. I don't even attempt some things. Like, it's just so humor, a version of yourself, very different. It's just really having to negotiate. Did I say too much? Did I say too little? Should I have been more formal? And like specifically with Spanish, where we have informal you, formal you, plural, singular, like which one? In English, there's only one. So did I come across? Was that, so just often doubting yourself.
Okay.
Should I make a bigger effort? Should others be making an effort? Like, how much is on me? It can be so exhausting.
Oh my gosh.
Exhausting. Should I just, I was invited to this, but when the time comes, I think it's just too much. And so just making decisions of how to be,
Okay.
where to be, who you are, which part of you to be, which part of you to hide, which part of you to bring out. I think it's a lot.
That perspective is really important for everybody to hear. And that is the point of having this conversation, right? It's like it's so important to have it so that people are aware that when you are interacting with somebody that is not from this culture, right? Like maybe grant them some grace, right? And we'll get into some conversation later about, I think, asking questions and how to kind of navigate that if you are somebody who is native to this area, right? And interacting with somebody who isn't and how to support them. So, okay. So, what are some common emotional or behavioral signs that a student might be struggling with cultural adjustment, even if they wouldn't put that label on it? So, this is a very important question, I think, again, to go back to how we can support students that might be struggling.
They're either really, really quiet in class or they'll participate, but they might just speak for the sake of speaking up so that they're participating,
Okay.
or they might just be really quiet. Even if they know the answer and they're prepared, they're unsure. They might overthink, even sending an email. Overthink. How do I craft an email? What do I say? What do I not say? How do I address people? Like you just overthink things. And so that's exhausting. It's time consuming. Um, am I doing too much? Am I not doing too much?
Okay. So, like quiet, like
Yeah.
maybe just like if for students, for other students or like faculty or staff that might be listening to this, like an international student that is incredibly quiet, what, like, do they go up to them? Like, do they ask them, like, check in? Is that what you would encourage? Or, like, so if you could speak on behalf of like a student and then a faculty member.
So in private, before, after class, and
Okay.
I mean, that's come up with me, not even just with an international student, but a student who's either falling asleep in class or really quiet. And then I see under quizzes or tests or assignments that they do well. So it's maybe approaching and saying, I see you seem to know the material, but in class it's not showing. And you would be a really good influence and an asset in class if you actually participated, spoke up, and start in small groups, and then maybe
Okay.
and one case was a student who had a night job and was showing up to my class and just was really tired. And so again, try not to jump to conclusions. It's not good exercise. We all do it. We all do it, but
Mhm.
it's just sometimes just a short conversation
Okay.
or yeah. So it's just, I think, approaching a student, and again, not just already having decided
Mm.
what's going on with the student, but just an open question. If they're willing to share, it opens, starts a conversation. But
Nice.
signs like being sleepy or being, you can tell they're looking pale, or they're just, sometimes it's just food insecurity. Could be the food is a real challenge. From certain cultures, people eat at
Mhm.
9 at night. That's the common time to eat. People from Spain, that's when they have dinner, 9, 10 at night. So when the cafeteria closes early, and if they haven't gone out of their way to go and collect a dinner and have it for later, it's a lot of things to get used to, right? You're different times, and
It's like so good to have this information, truly, right? Because this is just stuff that we do not, because we haven't had that experience and maybe have limited interactions with individuals from different cultures. Like we don't have this information. So again, just kind of like want to encourage you that like this is really good information to have.
Yeah.
So thank you.
calling home. That is something for me. I speak to my mom twice a day. It's still, I get to speak my native language. It connects me to my roots. It connects me to love and home.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that roots me every day, my morning and evening conversation with my mom.
Okay.
And so I know for a lot of international students,
Mm-hmm.
uh, even with the big time differences, for me, I only have 1 hour difference, and that's only half of the year. But students, it is a big deal to speak to their siblings or somebody back
Yeah.
home, their parents, just sharing good things or hard, challenges.
Yeah.
It is a big deal it helps to ground yourself, but calling home. And so that again, it's emotional, it's time consuming,
Mm-hmm.
because I have asked students who are from Evansville or from Indiana or even from the US, call, or, I FaceTime, or I text my parents. But I know for a lot of international students, it's like, that need to hear the voice, that need to really be, it's so important.
Yes, and speak your native
Yeah,
language.
exactly.
Like I imagine that elicits a lot of comfort, right?
Mhm.
So again, another good perspective that you wouldn't really consider. So thank you.
Yes. So many international students may feel pressure to adapt quickly or not talk about what's hard. Why can that pressure make the adjustment process more stressful and more isolating?
I think part of it is that international students are really cognizant that it's a privilege to be here, that they are grateful for the opportunity to be in the United States, to be at a university studying in their second or third language. Um, we have to keep in mind that these students already have done so much by learning a second or third language. It is quite amazing, and we need to give so much credit. And so they're very grateful to have this opportunity. Yet so then it's questioning, why am I struggling so much? Why am I struggling? I'm here doing what I love, and yet there's so much of an adjustment, and so feeling alone, feeling like sometimes you might have to be silent, or you feel that you need to be silent, or you can't truly express your full your full self, your full identity. So that's challenging.
Yeah. I imagine that it is.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, it
Yeah.
sounds like, to be successful.
Right.
And again, reminding, that if you add these other identity um, elements or aspects of identity, if you're, LGBTQ, or if you're um, neurodivergent, there's just so many other aspects. Being from another country, another culture is just one aspect.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more to each individual.
Of course.
And so, yeah, all those other aspects and factors come into play.
Yeah. And I imagine it makes it that much more difficult to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of jumping into our next question, it's something we've already discussed briefly, but how can cultural transition or this intercultural differences show up in academic spaces? So, you've kind of touched on class participation and emailing professors, but also group work and understanding expectations. Like, how does that show up in an academic setting for international students?
So just being raised in another part of the world, you just by if I lived in the mountains, and that has had an effect on me. Or somebody who lives by the ocean, or I mean, the U.S. is a big country, so there are people, even students from the U.S. who come from different places, and so sometimes you might think, "Oh no, my perspective is so different. I think I won't interrupt. I don't think I'm going to disagree with what the group is saying. I don't think it's up to me to take the leadership position. I think my ideas don't really, are wrong, are the wrong ideas. I don't think I have much to contribute." So it's just encouraging to open up the space. That I think brainstorming is the best thing, because when a group does brainstorm, there's no wrong idea. Brainstorming. So maybe
Yeah.
including that element of let's just pretend, let's just brainstorm, and then there's no wrong ideas, because
Okay.
in that kind of a element. But I know, because I'm aware of it too as a faculty. Sometimes I'm aware, and I forget some of these things, and I'm expecting the one exact answer. And if you don't give me that,
Yeah.
so I fall into that as well, because then I'm hoping that they did their work, they're prepared, and they're going to give me that one correct
Yeah.
answer. But but I think in group work, and again dynamics, that's when a lot of our background comes into play.
Mhm.
And I have observed group work is very different in the US than it is in other places I've been. Group work, you say there's a group assignment, and everybody says, I'll do this part, you do that part, and then we'll just put it all together. And the way I was taught in group work, I know in Colombia, when I was in high school, we did all the parts together. We would, after school, we would get together and we did all the parts together. We all knew all the parts. Again, there's always this somebody who doesn't do much.
That's universal.
Yes.
Tiana's like, that's the same across the
Yep.
board.
And just somebody who will do more, or who will take it, after it's all done, and tweak little things here and there.
Uh-huh.
But we really did get together and do all the parts together. And so to me, that is teamwork. Anyway, so it's just,
Okay.
so students might not know what team or group work means.
Okay.
let's see what else. Expectations, office hours. I think even for some first generation college students, office hours doesn't, what does that even mean? What does
Yes,
office hours mean? And
literally.
so
Mm.
I do have it written as times that I am available to students.
Mhm.
That's how it is on my syllabi. That's how I explain it to students. The times and days I'm available to students. And because office hours can be, is that because I'm failing and I need to come see you? Is it because, is it somebody, is it because I get participation points if I come to your office? Like, what does that even mean? How can you explain that?
Yeah,
So,
clarifying what that means
yeah.
exactly.
So,
And okay.
those are some of those academic,
Mhm.
points that might somebody who's second generation, third generation college student, like office hours. Of course, I know what that is.
Yeah. I am also first generation student. So like
Mhm.
I never went to office hours. I had no idea they existed.
Yep. I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, what if there's going to be another student there? That's weird. Like, yeah, so I never went either.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but I'm like, maybe you guys should try office hours.
Right. Exactly. Now we know.
Hey, and let me know how it goes. Report
and,
back, please.
and something else that Deanna said that I don't know, it might come up, but like it hurts me sometimes to hear when students are like they have input and they have say and they have a perspective, but because the majority might already all be on the same page, they're like, oh, I better not, right? And I think that goes back to that, like I want to fit in rather than the belonging, and that inside I'm like, no, speak your mind, like I
Mhm.
just want to encourage them to be true to themselves, right? So that they feel good. And yeah, okay. So
So decoding the system, it's hard. There's so many little pieces that higher ed is complicated.
it is.
Mhm.
And then if you, like you mentioned, coming from different colleges and universities in different countries, I like didn't even realize
Mhm.
that, one course means 1 credit. Here it's like
Mhm.
one course could be 3 credits or maybe 1.5 credits,
Yeah.
Like,
And then there's student also for academics too. Well, or I think maybe it was part of
question.
another question that joining student organizations, but also students. I have also seen students who their first semester they in trying to fit in, they join so many things and then they're overwhelmed and can't manage, time and
Mhm.
commitments that they've done, and so it's hard, or
Yeah.
just feeling you don't know what to join, and so there are a lot of decisions in terms of housing too. Um, Yes, that's a whole other whole
Uh-huh.
food and housing and having roommates and just it's yeah.
It's
I mean,
got to be
just for
such an
any
adjustment.
student,
Yeah.
but yeah, just there are so many other things to keep in mind with cultural traditions, cultural habits, cultural just little things we do that might be quirky or strange,
Literally.
that might seem strange to others, or that people from the US do that might seem strange to us, and yeah.
Yeah. And that's got to be an adjustment itself, which is stressful.
Yes. Speaking of like adjustments and loneliness and needing support, what makes building friendships especially complex when you're navigating maybe language differences, the cultural norms, like you said, new social environment?
Think it's translating yourself, because you do it's like, are you, and it's a question um that well, I as I have a change lab and it's celebrating Hispanic voices, and so it's by Hispanic students for Hispanic students, and so it's a question we often ask the students that we have on the podcast, and it's that, do you think more in your native language? Do you think, have you started thinking more in English? Are you constantly translating? It's already in your head, and so then you add the emotional component, and then you're trying to be friends. um is friendship the same? Do we share the same kind of things? Do friends feel that, can I text you at 1 in the morning? Are you there for me, really? And there's another aspect that comes if you're an international student, or just a student, second generation, and you've come from Texas, you've come from Maine, you've come from California, and you're here, you don't have a car. Um, so that is like, can I ask my new friend to give me a ride to Walmart? Can I, like, to what am I, is that too much? Am I asking too much?
Yeah.
How do I fend for myself? What friends do? It's just trying to define what friendship is. And then remembering that they're teenagers and even if they were in their own country, they would still be going through this process, but adding a cultural level and linguistic level,
Mhm.
all that is just other challenges. Financial pressure too, being friends, like who has disposable money? Do you have a permit to work here? So do you have income? At what point can you work if you're an international student? Even immigration, stress from immigration. Do my friends, will they be able to understand? Immigration is a is a huge stressor for international students.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so, who can understand me? Do I even bring this up about my visa? Everybody's traveling for or going to Harlexton. Am I going to be able to do that? People are traveling for spring break. Like, uh, you know,
Is it safe for
is
me
it?
to travel?
There's so many things, and so that's stress. So yes, you have friends, but what are some of these topics that you can bring up that they'll be able to relate, or is it just
Mhm. And it's complex is a good word to use because it's so complex. And I think, right, the other thing is like, is that individual open to cultural differences and discussing what that means, right? Instead of just like assuming like, okay, you're now here in the United States. And so you'll just, and this is closed minded, you'll obviously just adapt, right? And like transition and it'll be fine, right? And I think it takes the individual that's native to this area to be intentional with their interactions and like asking like, hey, is there anything that you want to talk about? Like there's a lot going on on the news or this or that, right? And like just being really open-minded and intentional with just checking in and asking, and they in some ways have to be open to that. So just like as you're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, it becomes so complex and there's so many things you don't think about. And something that you reminded me of is like I was living in Tennessee for a little bit, and like in the Tennessee area there's people from all over because Fort Campbell is there, and so there's people from all different walks of life. And I had a friend that I worked with from a different cultural background, and this was such an interesting little quirk that if she asked you out to go to dinner or something like that, she assumed she paid. And I was like, what? So if I asked her out, she would assume I paid. And like that was so interesting to me because I've never had that experience. As you're laughing, you're shaking your head
yes.
because
Because in Spanish, when I say te invito, it's I'm paying, I'm inviting you, but I'm paying. When you just saying te invito is because it's on me.
Yep.
So that's just it. Unless it's like, vamos a almorzar, let's go together. That's different than te invito. If I say te invito, I'm inviting you, it's on me.
I love
automatically, it just means that.
I love that. Right. And you just don't think about these things. Right. And so it was actually kind of insulting to her if somebody asked her to go to eat and then they didn't pay for her. Right. And so we had a conversation about it. And it just was really interesting to me, especially my 19-year-old brain was just like exploding.
You mentioned, if something's happening in in their part of the world, but that's something. Indiana is insular. Here in the United States, we're insular, but we're also insular in our mindset. We're insular in that, you know, a lot of people don't watch the news, don't seem to be aware of what's happening in the rest of the world. And so for international students, they are living in two or three places at once because they really keep up with the news from their country, the news from where they've lived. I try to keep up with news from Colombia, from Canada, Indiana, and the US, and it can be taxing. Some weeks I just say I shut it all down. It's
Yes.
too much.
Mhm.
It's too much. My mom goes, well, haven't you watched the news? Haven't you read the? And I go, Mom, some days it is too much. So being a student, your academics, if you're involved, in other things, and then keeping up with the news, and just, just in the past few months where things have happened, and we have students from those populations where it just, you don't want to get out of bed. You
No.
just want to stay under the blankets because you don't know, is my family back home okay? Is my other family who is living in other countries because they had to leave our home country, are they okay?
Right.
Am I going to be okay? Is our embassy going to be open? Is our consulate, is my passport valid? So you add all that, and then you have an essay due in 2 days.
Right.
Like, what becomes a priority for you? And so there is a lot. There's a lot, and to navigate or to be mindful. And so it's an education for everybody,
I am going to continue saying this. It's so important that we're having this conversation, right? Because you don't even, like, I'm sure there are students that don't even realize that their friends that are from different backgrounds in different countries, like, they're worried about their family. They're worried about maybe can they go home for summer? If they do go home from summer for summer, can they come back? Right. And so, that essay that's due in 2 days doesn't seem like such a big deal, right? It's just like, I can't even stress about this right now. So just being mindful and aware. My goodness. Okay. Oh, well, jumping into my next question is really relevant. What's something you wish domestic students or faculty better understood about what international students are really carrying as they adjust to life and learning in a new culture? And so we've touched on it a little bit, but maybe there's one line or takeaway that we can have here for students and faculty that are listening.
No, so I think checking always, and I do this for myself because we all have biases, checking our biases, checking our stereotypes, checking ourselves, checking our own culture, being aware of our culture, because knowing our culture well, and I hear from students from the US, we don't have a culture here, but often it is not until they go to abroad or Harlexton when they're in another country where they speak the same language, but it's very different. And so it's just reflecting on our own selves so that we can be better for others. And it's a constant, right? And we don't always, we have such busy lives. There's so many demands and the more technology we have, the more we seem to be, busier and more demands are. So it's hard to take time to reflect and, was there something I did or said yesterday that wasn't quite right? Do I need to make some kind of amends? It's hard. Like we all make mistakes. I certainly do. I think last week I needed to do right by a few people, and because I'm either tired or haven't slept enough or just too much. And so trying to be better people ourselves and for others, and trying to remember to be patient and understanding. But it's not easy. We're humans. We all make mistakes. We're not always we're emotional beings.
What campus resources or types of support do you think international students underuse, even though they could really help with that adjustment, connection, belonging?
Counseling services. Really,
Yes.
because I know, from my, where I come from, Latin America, mental health is stigmatized. It really is taboo, and things have been opening up. And I know for the younger generation, the students, the international students at UE in the past couple of years, talk about it openly.
Yeah.
There are students who talk about it openly. You are seeing a therapist, you're taking medication, and that opens the door so widely for all students and for faculty, for everyone to just, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's better to see a therapist, better to take medication if that's what's going to help you to be the better version of yourself. And that it could be temporary, could be long term, but we need to have these conversations. And so truly, but sometimes it's the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being labeled, and that can really make a huge difference in not just you sleeping better, eating better, and then performing better in everything you do. The gym, working out. And I am the least person, especially this semester when I have not gone to the gym at all. I really try, and I really value the program through exercise science that students work with faculty and staff. And I just could not fit it in this semester, but reminding, so students, working out.
Yeah.
So just reminding them we have a gym, might not be the best facilities, but it is there, and there are people, and you're welcome, and there's equipment, and you can ask for help, and just find a buddy or go by yourself. So really, it is. We have many welcoming and useful spaces on campus.
Yeah.
And the next would be the writing center. And I think that can be so intimidating because you already feel that this is my second or third language. I'm not very good. And so never mind. That's such a huge barrier, such an obstacle. Christina Groves, who oversees that center.
Wonderful lady.
It is such an important resource that, everybody who's involved in that, it is, and if it just is. So reminder to faculty, send your students through the Writing Center. Let's all remember to not walk them there. I have walked students there. I have walked students to counseling services and everything that represents. Also, organizations, there are ways to connect. We do have the Hispanic Latina Student Union, HLSU. We had an event on Saturday. It's, it's just being together, and whether you speak the language of the group, because it's a Hispanic. A lot of the students who are part of that organization, their parents are native speakers or Spanish, or their great grandparents they don't, but they still feel an affinity to that. And then whether it is just having some candy that's from your homeland, or playing a board game, or just doing nothing, or just sitting together, is just having that affinity, that company. So student organizations, and then the, registrar's office. Oh my goodness, the people there really take their time. You can book an appointment. They will help you with time management, with sorting out your courses. It's just everybody in that office will, are you looking for an internship? It's just, we're a small campus, but sometimes students can get lost and just feel intimidated. But once they're introduced, then I think it can make a world of a difference to see that people are always willing to help and assist. And if they don't have the answers, they'll
send you to somebody else.
Exactly. So those are some key, but there are many.
There's so many. I think Adam James in our last episode was like, we are a small campus, but we are not lacking resources. Like, we are not lacking resources. And that's the truth of it. And so like the kind of, as you were talking, I was like, okay, so really what it's going to take is students have to be a little vulnerable and open to connecting with student organizations, to these resources, talking to professors, talking to their peers. And then what faculty or other students can do, like their peers, could be like, hey, checking in. Did you know about the Writing Center? Do you want to make an appointment there? Right. So it's going to take a little bit of vulnerability and communication and being open to trying new things. Yeah.
And sometimes it's the fear, right? Or sometimes it's just not knowing those resources are there for you. And sometimes it's the fear that you'll be labeled, oh my gosh, I go to a writing center. Why?
You're right. That's another
better
label.
Than using ChatGPT.
Oh, that's another topic we could get on. If a student is quietly thinking, maybe I don't belong here, what would you want them to hear about belonging, resilience, and navigating a new cultural environment?
That's a hard one because it's also very individual, but just one day at a time. Or I would really just say, tell me more. I'd like to hear more. Just tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't want to jump to conclusion. I might say, oh yeah, because so-and-so and B. So tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
What do you mean by you don't feel you fit in? You don't feel you're doing well. You don't feel, what do you mean?
Okay. That opens the door to so many different conversations that could be had. So
really, I don't have a lot of answers.
But all you need really is support sometimes. You don't have to have the answers. Just knowing, being an ear for somebody and allowing them to talk about their experiences is sometimes, everything. It's all that they need.
Yeah. I was with the student who really, it was a few times had, just shared things just spontaneously before, after class. And then one time was just really just contacted me and said, I really can't sleep. I'm having a hard time. And so we got together and I had these drawing materials. I said, I don't know how you express yourself. I brought these markers and these, like a sketch pad. And she just pushed all that aside and said, can you just listen to me?
I love that so much.
Because I didn't really know the students so well. And I didn't know what am I going to do or what is it? So I know some people writing, sketching, doodling, and I'm like, I'm going to just come prepared. And I said, do you want food? Do you want drink? I brought these resources. can you just listen to me?
Deanna, that's why students love you. Like, that is so beautiful.
So thoughtful.
It is. It's like, okay, don't know what they need. Maybe a little drink, a snack, some writing materials. And then the student was like, I just need your ears. But like, at least they were able to communicate that too.
Yeah.
It's
Felt
so
comfortable
wonderful.
enough.
Yes, right.
Communicate
And it's
that.
probably because you've responded so positively and as a support. And that's all you need to do.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So, myth versus fact. If I'm struggling to adjust, it means I'm not cut out for this.
Oh gosh, no. That's really a myth.
Yes.
Not true.
All right.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
I know that well
Mhm.
because I've felt imposter syndrome many times in my life. And so just keep going. Just do the best you can. Ask for help and just keep going.
Perfect.
Everyone else seems to be adjusting just fine. So I must be the only one that's having a hard time.
I feel like that still quite a bit, but I know it's just it's a perception, but it's not a truth.
That is,
yeah.
Ooh.
She's the therapist. She's the therapist.
Yeah. So, when do you have availability?
Maya's going to email you and be like, hey, do you have time to talk? I can't sleep.
And I do not want the drawing material.
Oh.
Bring the snacks.
Okay, last one for myth versus fact. Once the hardest part of adjusting is over, everything should start to feel easy.
Nope. Yep, I can speak from my own experience.
Mhm.
14 years and 15 years in the US, there's still moments because again, the world is evolving. Things are changing. It's nothing is settled. And unless we want to be stagnant and we want to be vibrant human beings and living to our potential. So I think it's not, yeah.
You're exactly right. So let's close with our self-care spotlight. What's one small, realistic thing that students can do to support themselves during cultural adjustment, right? So whether you're from the coast and you've moved inland or you're from a different country, what do you think is something small that they can do?
Sleep.
Mm.
Sleep goes a long way.
Yes, it
Just
does.
Try to get some sleep
It does.
and then be protective of that time. Yeah, it is, whether it's you're a night owl or an early bird, just be protective of your sleep. Turn your phone off.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Yes.
Really, just
Mm-hmm.
if somebody,
Protect your time.
Yes, yeah.
That was
your sleep.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deanna, for helping normalize something so many students experience but don't always have words for.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you both.
Truly, this has been wonderful. And adjusting to a new culture can be hard. And if you're struggling, it does not mean that you're failing.
And it's okay to ask for support along the way. You don't have to navigate this alone. This is Hot Mess Help Desk.
2 counselors,
Total hot messes.
here to help you thrive.
Even if everything feels uncomfortable and awkward.
Excellent.
Love it. Before we go, a quick reminder. You don't have to handle everything on your own.
If you're a student here at UE, you can connect with us at the Counseling Center. Just call 812-488-2663. Email counselingservices@evansville.edu or stop by during office hours.
If you're not on our campus, check in with your school's counseling center or a local provider for support.
And if you ever feel like you're in immediate danger or are having thoughts of harming yourself or others, please call Public Safety to get in contact with a UE counselor or call 911 right away.
You can also dial 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's available 24/7 anywhere in the U.S.
You're not alone, and reaching out takes courage.
This podcast was produced by Student Media. Student Media is a student organization at the University of Evansville that utilizes design, photography, video, and sound towards experiential and academic learning in journalistic endeavors and storytelling. Student Media elevates the voice of the student body and connects the campus and community to important information and points of view. If you would like to donate, go to fireside.evansville.edu/donate to contribute to a program.